Let's talk now, though, to Matt Dent, who's a Cabinet Member for Culture, Tourism and Business in Southend-on-Sea, because Southend has been in the news since a few weeks ago. We actually carried the video of some people who were getting involved in what looked like a sword fight, a machete fight, on the seafront. We got calls after that footage was shown of all this disorder. We got phone calls from people who live in Southend saying, you know, this is not unusual. I was shocked. I was going, this is shocking. This is awful. A place like Southend, you know, what is apparently a sort of a holiday destination, a seaside town in this country, is being kind of absolutely full of marauding kids. And it turns out that people in Southend were ringing in to say, actually, it's not unusual at all. This happens all the time. So it's been in the news lately because the police have basically come out and said, look, you know, Southend isn't any worse than anywhere else. Nobody's fighting as much as we're being told that they are. But let's see. Let's talk to Matt and see what he has to say. Matt, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thanks very much for talking to us. I mean, I think it's probably. I mean, it doesn't. I'm not intending to pick on Southend. It so happens that that thing happened in Southend. We spoke to a few people down there. People have written stories about it, and it may well be that Southend's not any worse than other places. But I've been reading around the last few days, and it seems as though there is an element of people coming from London and sort of getting involved in punch-ups at the weekends and things. What's your take on it?
Well, my take on it is that what happened back on the 30th of July was absolutely unacceptable. We had a large number of individuals coming from London, and it ended in unacceptable violence between those people. And residents in Southend are entirely right to be upset about it. However, I would completely disagree with the fact that this is a normal and common occurrence in Southend. This is something that's entirely out of the ordinary, and since this took place a few weeks ago, the council, the police, the train operators, we put in place various measures to prevent this from happening again. And I've got to say, every time I've been down to the seafront, both in the week and at the weekends, it's been peaceful. It's been full of people having a great time, enjoying the beaches, enjoying the sunshine. And I just don't recognise this view that this is a common occurrence in Southend.
I mean, what some of our callers told us was that there's been a lot of sort of drug activity of late. And again, I'm not singling out Southend because there's a lot of towns in Britain that you could say have the same problem. You know, that there are people openly selling drugs on the street. There are parts of the towns where people don't like to go after dark. Some parts of the town that they think are a bit dangerous. You know, by all means, not all of it. By all means, you know, not all of the time. But an awful lot of Britain at the moment is in that sort of similar position.
I think we have a problem across the country with particular drug crime, and I think, you know, it's combining both a crime issue and a public health issue, and absolutely it needs to be dealt with. I do think that Southend is no worse than anywhere else in the country, and in terms of what I face as both a cabinet member on the council but also a ward councillor representing a inner city ward, I regularly get complaints about antisocial behaviour and drug crime, and I have to say Essex Police do a fantastic job responding to what I refer to them as that. It's a difficult job, policing in 2024, and the Essex Police, for all my I might raise criticisms of how they handled things on the 30th of July, they do a great job keeping Southend safe Monday to Sunday, 24 hours a day.
I spoke to a colleague of yours, I think a couple of weeks ago, who said that there's now a sort of a knife arch or a security arch up at the station. Is that right?
Yes, you spoke to Councillor Carty, I believe,
yeah, that's right.
A colleague of mine. We have a number of the knife arches, which I believe have been deployed at the stations, because the root of the problem on the 30th of July was a large group of people coming up from London. So the obvious solution is to stop them at the train station, stop them before they get down to the seafront and where they could cause any trouble. The knife arches are brilliant. The only problem is that, you know, we need them to be manned by police officers, because if there is someone with a knife, we don't want employees at the train station being the ones having to deal with that. We want.
So how does it work then? Do they take everybody through it, or do they pick people out? Is it a kind of stop and search type scenario?
I think it's sort of. I think you're right. I think it's a stop and search scenario, and they are, directing people through it as they see them coming through. And yeah, I mean, the technology in it is astounding, and is really sort of next generation. And I would frankly love to see more of these around Southend and around the country, because they do a brilliant job tackling, people carrying knives, and allow us to get those knives off the street.
And do you know roughly, since it's been in, how many knives have been seized?
I don't, but I do know that we haven't had any repeat of the same sort of problems that we saw on the evening of the 30th of July. And, as I say, those events are staggeringly rare. I personally I've lived in Southend for 10 years, and I've never seen anything like that on our streets.
OK. Well, good to talk to you, Matt. I'm sure we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll get more, I'm sure, input from people that live down there as well, who might tell us what their experiences are.